2019. It's the 10 a.m. regular meeting of the Webster County Board of Supervisors. We'll call this meeting to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Item number 3 is to approve today's agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move item 3.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions or comments on today's agenda? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item 3 carries. Item number 4 is to approve the August 27, 2019 regular meeting minutes.
So moved.
Seconded.
Questions or comments on item number 4? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item 4 carries. Item number 5 is to approve drainage claims. We have one turned in for Drainage District number 5, Roland Township, Section 13. We have a beaver dam west of the railroad tracks, turned in by Gary Vosberg.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move item 5.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item 5 carries. Item 6 is to accept and authorize the hiring of Tiffany Millam, Corrections Officer, full-time, September 11, 2019, at an hourly rate of $16.32 per recommendation of Steve Alfreds, Jail Administrator.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions or comments on item number 6? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item 6 carries. Item number 7 is a public hearing on the first consideration of the amendment to ordinance number 046, the zoning ordinance for an unincorporated area of Webster County, Iowa, to amend section 1.04, farms exempt, to allow a small parcel where a farmer's house, home, and operation are located to be eligible for agricultural exemption, even though the farm ground may not be contiguous to where the farmhouse is located. Open this public hearing at 10:02. Do we have any written questions?
I have none. Do you have any? No.
Mr. Barr.
Good morning, Chairman, Supervisors. Chad Barr, Planning and Zoning Administrator for the county. Yeah, this particular item came up, I brought it to the Planning and Zoning Commission in July as an issue for discussion just on the agenda. And what they did is they initiated a text amendment to look at it more in depth. And then they heard that in a hearing form on August the 13th. They did recommend to this body to make the text amendment. And just to give a little bit of background and explanation, if I could, something that fairly often occurs in the Planning and Zoning Department is when people apply for building permits or whatever, is to make the determination of agricultural exemption or not. The benefit by agricultural exemption to the applicant, obviously, is no fee is charged, number one. And then number two, they're not bound by anything of the zoning ordinance other than the floodplain regulations, which are applicable to all parties. But one of those things is what we've noticed, at least I've noticed since I've been here, and I'm sure it didn't start with me just coming here or whatever, but is that over time, where we have you go back decades ago and you'd have the farmhouse and then farm ground around it, lots of times it would be on the same parcel. But now there tends to be more and more separation there. So you have the house, and there's still farm ground around it, but it's not that person's land or whatever. They might be farming down the road a mile or a few miles or something like that. So it calls into question our existing wording in the zoning ordinance in that section 104, where it says, for the farm ground or the farmhouse, they must be contiguous or basically adjacent or on the same parcel. But I feel that's kind of more of a dated type of practice. And so what's proposed before you is just a simple few words change, which would give us the ability to give ag exemption on the farmhouse, even though it's separated from the farm. The farmer might be farming down the road or whatever. So it gives us the ability to do that. And so that's the wording, the text amendment wording that's before you this morning.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the floor?
How do you consider this guy being a farmer or a person being a farmer building a home? Is it so many acres or?
Very good question. What we did as a department earlier this year, we basically we mimicked what a lot of other counties are doing across the state. So we now actually have a form called an agricultural exemption. And it's like a 2-page form where they actually detail information about their operation. That way it gives us a good idea of what they do, what that particular producer does, and where they do it at, whether it's row cropping or animals or both of those types of things. And obviously our A1 zone has a 40-acre minimum for a lot of uses, but if you're ag and if you're ag exempt, well, then you're not bound by that. So, I guess to answer your question, it's just a trend that we've seen some of the other counties doing as well, where they're not defining them all on the same parcel, both the house. So this would give, like, a person had the house and they had some machinery, but they didn't farm down the street. That agricultural exemption form, they can give us that detail, that information, and hopefully we can make the determination for ag exemption for the house as well as where they might, be farming somewhere else. So,
Any other questions? Mr. Barr, thank you.
All right,
We'll
thanks.
close the public hearing at 10:06. We'll move on to item number 8. First consideration and approve an amendment to the ordinance number 046, the zoning ordinance for an unincorporated area of Webster County, Iowa, to amend section 1.04 and to further amend the county land use management plan and zoning map, and further to waive a second consideration and set September 17, 2019 at 10 a.m. as the date for the third and final consideration.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move item 8.
Second.
Motion and a second on item number 8. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item 8 carries. Chad, thank you for your work on that.
thank you.
Item number 9 is to consider and approve an agreement with Silverstone Group Incorporated for actuarial services and actuarial valuations and reports.
Mr. Chairman, I motion to move item 9.
A second.
Motion and a second.
So this report is something that we're required to do by the state. Through the code, we have to complete a gas fee, 73, I think it is, report. And on that report, you have to show the employment benefits for people that are retired. And they basically put together the numbers for us so that we can report that on our annual financial report.
Have a motion and a second. Do I have any questions or comments? Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item 9 carries. Item number 10 is to receive and place on file the annual manure management plans for Lore Site number 70437, 3407, Sigourney Avenue, Lorville, Iowa.
Mr. Chairman, I will move item 10.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, he updated his soil samples and he's using the new Iowa phosphorus.
Thank you. And again, the manure management plan, land use includes land in Webster County. That is why we're approving this. There's no further questions. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item 10 carries. Item 11 is to receive and place on file a proclamation for September to be National Recovery Month. Good morning.
I'm Vicki Schumann. I'm one of the prevention specialists, and I just kind of brought this to you so that we can get this recovery month going off on a great foot. So if you want to read the proclamation, I have like our recovery month events that I can talk about a little bit.
Okay, Recovery Month proclamation. Whereas behavioral health is an essential part of health and one's overall wellness, and whereas prevention of mental and/or substance use disorders works, treatment is effective, and recovery is vital to the well-being of the individual and the community. And whereas proactively acknowledging and treating mental and/or substance use disorders is essential to achieving healthy lifestyles, both physically and emotionally. And whereas we must encourage relatives and friends of people with mental and/or substance use disorders to implement preventative measures, recognize the signs of a problem, and guide those in need to appropriate treatment and recovery support services. And whereas, given the serious nature of this public health problem, we must strive to offer all persons the same opportunities for treatment and wellness. And whereas to help more people achieve and sustain long-term recovery, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, the White House Office of National Drug Control Policy, and the Webster County Board of Supervisors invite all residents of Webster County to participate in the National Recovery Month, September of 2019. And Webster County, by virtue of the authority vested in us by the laws of Webster County, do hereby proclaim the month of September 2019 as National Recovery Month. In Webster County and call upon the people of Webster County to observe this month with appropriate programs, activities, and ceremonies to support this year's Recovery Month.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a Recovery and Wellness 5K run walk at Ada Hayden. That's this Saturday. There's a $10 registration fee, but it's absolutely gorgeous out there if you like to do that kind of thing, walk and run type stuff. Or the following Saturday on September 14th, we'll have our 7th annual Recovery and Wellness Family Fun Festival. That's here in Fort Dodge. It's going to be out at our new building, 211 Avenue M West. There's only going to be a $1 charge for food, and we're going to have lots of activities, balloon animals, board painting, yoga, spin art, bike safety, snacks, music, and games. So I've got stuff for each of you. If you want to just hand these to you.
Do you have any questions or comments on National Recovery Month? A motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second. Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it is a roll call.
Nicola, aye. Carlson, aye.
Campbell, aye.
Conrad, aye.
Vote aye.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Item number 12 is to receive and place on file a proclamation for September to be National Voter Registration Month.
Another proclamation. National Voter Registration Month, whereas registering to vote empowers eligible citizens to exercise their right to vote on Election Day. And whereas while Iowa is one of the nation's leaders in voter registration and voter participation, with more than 2 million residents currently registered to vote, excuse me, some eligible citizens have not yet registered. And whereas this month, the Iowa Secretary of State's office is conducting hundreds of thousands of eligible Iowans, to encourage them to register to vote. And whereas the voter registration process in Iowa is easier and more convenient than ever before, with online voter registration, election day registration, and applications available to government agencies across the state. And whereas the state of Iowa has an online voter registration system enabling citizens to register to vote and update their registration status quickly and easily any time of day. And whereas more than 250,000 Iowans have registered to vote for the first time in the state since January of 2015. Whereas we encourage all interested citizens and appropriate media outlets and organizations to participate in this nonpartisan voter registration awareness campaign to encourage the maximum participation of qualified voters in Iowa. Now therefore, we, the Webster County Supervisors, do hereby proclaim September 2019 as National Voter Registration Month and Tuesday, September 24th, 2019 as National Voter Registration Day.
Thank you. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move item 12.
Second. Motion and a second. Questions or comments on proclamations for National Voter Registration Month? Hearing none, all roll call.
Nicola, aye. Carlson, aye.
Campbell, aye.
Conrad, aye.
Vote aye.
And item 12 Item 13 is to approve and authorize the chair to sign a permit from Frontier Communications to install fiber optic cable on Route D20 in Section 36, Township 89 North, Range 29 West of Douglas Township.
Mr. Chairman, I motion to move item 13.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments on item number 13? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item 13 carries. Item 14 is to approve and authorize the chair to sign a permit from Mid-American Energy to repair gas lines on Westwood Acres Drive in Section 26, Township 89 North, Range 29 West of Douglas Township.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve item 14.
I'll second it.
Motion to have a second. Questions or comments on item number 14? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item 14 carries. Item number 15 is to approve and authorize the chair to sign a permit from Mid-American Energy to repair gas lines on Parker Drive in Section 26, Township 89 North, Range 29 West of Douglas Township.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. Questions or comments on item number 15? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item 15 carries. Item 16 is to approve and authorize the chair to sign a permit from Prairie Energy to install underground electrical lines on 230th Street in Section 6, Township 88 North, Range 27 West of Washington Township.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move item 16.
Motion to have a second on item number 16. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item 16 carries. Item 17 is to approve and authorize the chair to sign a permit from Xenia Rural Water District to install a water line on Nelson Avenue in Section 9, Township 88 North, Range 28 West of Otho Township.
Mr. Chairman, I motion to move item 17.
A second.
Motion and a second on item number 17. Do we have any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item 17 carries. Item 18 is to approve a request from the Badger Fire Department to use 160th Street and Oates Avenue from 6:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. Tuesday, September 10, 2019, for the emergency response training, subject to Badger Fire Department being responsible for coordinating and monitoring all necessary traffic control per the manual on uniform traffic control devices.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move item 18.
Second.
Motion to have a second. Questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item 18 carries. It is now the citizens' opportunity to address this board with items not on the agenda. Won't everybody get up all at once? Board of Supervisor Committee reports.
I don't have any this week.
Nothing.
Stepping Up is Thursday, Hazmat is Friday, and don't forget that Cop on a Rooftop is Friday morning.
Is that free donuts?
I don't think they're free, but I knew I would say donuts or mention donuts of any kind.
Detention of all law enforcement, so. I had general detention last week. It was a good meeting. Numbers are down, which is a good thing. Other than that, nothing going on this week.
All right. Motion to allow claims.
I'll make the motion to allow claims.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item 19 is closed session per Iowa Code 21.5J for discussion on the Cargill agreement for land purchase.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to go into closed session at 10:19. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you very much. We're going to go into closed session.